here. It is time for our Summer Game Fest non-E3 pre-show, pre-week cover, whatever we want to call it. The spread out shows that we're going to be having on the new game showcases that normally would be E3 week. But since the pandemic started, a lot of these have been spread out a little farther than we would normally expect. And this is going to be a bit of a summary on what, just very, very small show here, but just a summary on what has happened so far leading into the week of shows, opening up initially with the PlayStation Showcase that'll be happening later this week. But what already has aired is the Indie Games Showcase, which is the Japanese multi-hour stream. The last 2 years was an 8-hour straight stream, which I suffered through. It was like Experience Beige, from Star Trek: The Next Generation, just suffering through these streams because they have an English team with them that would try to keep up, but it was just nonstop, hour after hour after hour of indie titles. But the reason we watched was because it was important, because a lot of these small little mini titles would eventually get picked up by some of the medium and larger publishers here and released, but sometimes a year or two later. So it was a good idea to see what was going to be coming on the horizon and see announcements that you wouldn't normally see until way later. That being said, this year they split it up into 2 days worth of programming that aired a few days ago. The first day, luckily, I didn't have to cover because it was what they called their live plays. Basically, they were playing games and showing off games that were just recently released. Followed by the second day, which was the premieres, which was all the premieres, and it was a 4-hour stream. And in the 4-hour stream, I sat through it. I ended up watching at about 1.5 times speed, just to get to something, because there'd be a lot of stuff that we weren't going to be interested in. And obviously with hundreds of games being shown, like literally hundreds of games being shown at this for split seconds of 10-second periods or more, I wanted to make sure that we just included things that we pretty much know are going to get released in North America, and things that don't just look like indie garbage, because there's a lot of that. And I don't want to be mean. There's people put a lot of heart and effort into making these games, but I'm talking about things that actually have really good artistic style, have a chance of being a good game that is played well, that is worth your money. And obviously, some of these things are going to be subjective. They're not going to all be, objectively, these are fantastic. These are just my picks for, what I think we, at This Week in Geek, the crew, as well as audience, you guys would actually be interested in checking out. So I'll just highlight a few things. One thing I'll mention is they showed a game. I don't remember what it was called, but it's supposed to be collaborative, where I guess it's going to be like a streaming platform where you play the game and it's like charades and you draw things, and then your audience can join in and draw things with you. And they ended up trying a girl that looked like she was deep throating a banana, and by banana I mean not a banana. And the English commentators went and didn't know how to respond to it, which is pretty funny. And they're like, is a banana split? And it's like, no, they didn't know banana. But anyway, weird weeb games out of the way. I think somebody was trolling them. I think somebody was purposely trolling the drawing. But anyway, as far as these are quick games, I'm going to throw all the trailers for these games in the show's description. It should pop up on YouTube for it. You'll be able to click links, and same thing with you might be able to click links through your iTunes podcast, Google Podcasts. I'm not 100% sure, but most other podcatchers should be able to see the description and be able to click on them if you're interested in checking out the trailers. And I'm just going to sort of rapid fire read them off and what they look like. There's a game called Cat and Sheep Guiding Puzzle. And it's a really cute, low-key, laid-back, cozy game. They showed it off for iOS. It looks like it's coming to other platforms too. And you control a cat and puzzle and try to get the cat out of a room. It looks like a fun game you can play before you're going to go to bed. The next game is Shinobi Non Grata. That looks like a TurboGrafx 16 or Nintendo game, NES game, with think Ninja Gaiden meets, oh, what's that one on the TurboGrafx where you can get like mirrored images of yourself that also slash enemies in the air. You get like a ninja shadowy jumpy thing. It looks pretty cool, retro style game. There's Tyrant's Blessing. Tyrant's Blessing is a tactical RPG with a little bit more flair than some of the indie titles I've seen before. Graphically on par with some of the better tactical games that are appearing on Switch and other titles, other platforms. Like, think, what if Final Fantasy Tactics had the art style of Lufia 2 Rise of the Sinistrals? If that makes any sense. That looks neat, something to keep your eye on. As far as other titles, there's Jack Move, which is a weird-looking JRPG with interesting art style. That'll be worth checking out. Timothy and the Tower of Mu. That looks to be a Metroidvania meets Mega Man style game in the fantasy world. Looks fun. Outcore desktop adventure. It's a game, this looks weird, where you're trying to help an anime girl. I think she's stuck or something, and it makes your screen look like a Windows XP desktop, and you're like corrupting the screen. And you remember those games or the screensavers where you like had like a fly swatter hitting fake flies in your screen? It would look like it was, and you'd be destroying your screen, where like it took a screenshot of your screen and you could destroy it in weird ways. It looks like that, only as a weird sort of interactive game. There's Cargast. Now Cargast is interesting in that it was art style wise, it's a little different than the others. It's a little bit like pixel art, but with kind of bouncy characters. It's a JRPG where things are different at night than daytime. Little bit of that Earthbound, little bit of that strange modernness look to it. I think it's kind of neat. You might want to check it out. Then there's Meg's Monster. Now, Meg's Monster, I think it's called a different title in Japan, but the literal translation is like Meg the Monster or Meg's Monster. Think Pokemon meets what's that? It's like Pokemon meets Golden Sun in the way it looks and the isometric view for the battles. And the final one I want to talk about is one called Drain Us, and that is a pixel art HD 2D 3D pixel art, late Super Nintendo, early PlayStation style graphics, side-scrolling shoot 'em up that looks it looks really cool. Like, there's something unique about it. Just, it has maybe a little bit of that look of the of like the Luminous was it Luminous Arc or Luminous Avenger, the stuff that we see from what is that studio that made the Inti Creates? It's like the Inti Creates style, with a little bit of like Zero Wing and a few other things touched in there. A little bit of Darius, a little bit of where like all the bosses look like, instead of like fish here, they look like different creatures. One looks like an armadillo. Pretty neat stuff. I think that's going to be a fun title, and I'm pretty sure that's something like NAS America or one of these other studios will pick up and release here. And that's pretty much it as far as a recap of the first showcase. That is, a week and a half ahead of when all the other showcases are coming. So as far as, what we have to look forward to in the next week or two, this week we're going to have coverage. We'll talk about the state of play, which 30-minute state of play. Any longer than that, it would probably be a future gaming showcase, which is what I thought they were going to do. They might still do that later on in the summer. But as for leading into the summer of gaming, it's been confirmed that the PlayStation showcase is going to be third-party developers as well as first-party titles for the PlayStation VR 2. So I'm assuming we're going to see more titles in action there. Probably half of them are going to be that. I don't know what they're going to show, but they did have apparently up to 20 titles in development from first-party studios for the PSVR 2. As far as what we're going to be seeing from the third-party people, the rumors and hopes are that we're going to see Final Fantasy 16, and maybe even a tease for Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 2. But beyond that, I don't know. Maybe we'll see some stuff for Stray, which is that Annapurna game that is where you play as a cat in the future where humans have left Earth and there's just robots around. But so how it works is Thursday at 6 p.m. is when the State of Play is happening. I will actually be out. I might be able to see it live, but I'll be out going to a screening of David Cronenberg's Crimes of the Future at that exact moment when it's airing. Like, the movie starts at 7. I'll be leaving just about a quarter after 6 to go to the theater itself. So I might be watching it on my phone. As far as when I'll talk about it, I'll get back from that movie at around 9-ish at night, Eastern time. I'll probably hop right on and record after I watch it, and it'll either be out Thursday evening or Friday morning. As far as the next showcase, then we have to wait roughly a week till Thursday, June 9th, when the Summer Game Fest opening show is at 2 p.m. that day. So we'll have coverage out that evening. The Guerrilla Collective is showcasing their mid-range titles on Saturday the 11th, so a couple days later at 11 Eastern. The Wholesome Direct follows that at 12:30. And then at 3 p.m., the Future Game Show is airing. So we'll do a summary of that whole day later on in that evening. And then the Sunday is the Xbox and Bethesda Game Showcase at 1 p.m., the PC Gaming Show at 3. So we'll do coverage of that in that evening. I'll release it Sunday evening when that happens. And then there's some other stuff that'll be coming a little later. I know some people had other showcases that were supposed to be showing around that time. I just guess they haven't been announced. There'll probably be some Nintendo things somewhere around there. And we'll fit that in whenever it happens. And then for coverage for the rest of these showcases in the summer, what's been announced so far, there's an Overwatch showcase. We probably won't be covering that on June 16th. It's just we're not going to do that. We might mention it on the regular show if there's big news that comes out there. THQ Nordic is doing their showcase in August 12th. I'm assuming there's going to be an Ubisoft and some other stuff around that time too, but we'll do the THQ Nordic one because it's the first one being run by Embracer Group's bigger studio, and this will be after they've acquired, I'm not sure who they're going to be publishing under, but this is after they've acquired the Square Enix studios, right? Like the Square Enix Montreal or Square Enix Quebec, the Eidos Montreal, and what's it called? Crystal Dynamics. So we'll see if they have anything to show there. And then Gamescom is at the end of August. We'll cover that as it goes. But there's a few showcases that I know should be coming in between here. But we'll cover the stuff as it comes. And it'll all be under the prototype banner. So looks like we're going to have a bit of a busy, later this week. And then, of course, next weekend or the following weekend after that is going to be quite busy with coverage. And once all of the main ones are done, including the Xbox Bethesda PC show. So after the 12th, sometime in that week, we'll get a few people on. Maybe Ken will come on. We'll see if Birdman's feeling up to coming on. If not, we'll get his thoughts on it and discuss overall what was shown. I'm expecting it to be a weaker, maybe even the weakest outing out of the last 3 years, simply because it doesn't seem like there's a lot coming, but who knows, we could be surprised. And that's pretty much going to do it for this, early pre-show. I just wanted to make sure we got at least a little bit of coverage out when it came to some of those Japanese indies that are showing up. And we'll be back on the prototype when Sony has its State of Play later this week.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.